Let's discuss a little bit about human psychology. People like to think that they are rational beings, that they make rational decisions. But the majority of human decisions are actually irrational, and they're usually based on emotions. People like to think that their decisions are made consciously by thinking about it. But most of the time, the decisions are made subconsciously or usually out of a reaction or a habit or even an impulse. So people make decisions based on their own reasons, and they won't usually factor in your opinions or beliefs or your reasons when they make a decision. So don't try to get them to think rationally, and don't appeal to reason when trying to get them to make a decision. So let's talk about why people make the decisions they do. Let's talk about the hierarchy of needs. There's this guy named Abraham Maslow, and he developed a theory of hierarchy of needs. He basically states that there are basic needs that must be met. Once those needs are met, we advance to another set of needs that we need met. It goes like this. The most basic needs are our physiological needs. And then we have the safety needs, and we have the social, the esteem, and the self-actualization needs in that order. Now, this is just a theory, but it's a pretty good one, and it makes sense. So the gist is you fulfill one set of needs, then you're ready to start working on the next set. So once you have all your basic survival needs met, you can focus on the safety needs. And once you have your safety needs met, you can work on the social needs, and so forth and so on. And so this brings up why people tend to make the decisions they do. People make decisions based on where they are in that hierarchy. So if somebody is starving to death, they're not going to try to be creative. They're not going to go for personal growth. They're not going to go for fulfillment. So understanding where your customer is within that hierarchy can help you understand where they are in their decision making. So there's also a guy named Drew Eric Whitman, and he has his own theory of needs. And in his book, Cashvertising, he lays out a pretty compelling case for what he calls the Life Force 8. And these 8 are the needs and desires that he claims every human was biologically programmed with. And I'll list them out here. They're, number 1 is the survival, enjoyment of life, and life extension. The second one is enjoyment of food and beverages. The third one is freedom from fear, pain, and danger. The fourth one is sexual companionship. 5 is comfortable living conditions. 6 is to be superior, winning, and keeping up with the Joneses, although I would argue that sometimes it's moving past the Joneses. Number 7 is care and protection of loved ones, and 8 is social approval. Now with this, there is no hierarchy. It's more of a lateral list of what needs people basically want. Further to the 8 primary wants, Whitman asserts that there are 9 other basic wants, and he calls them the secondary human wants. However, these aren't biologically programmed wants as much as they are learned wants. And these 9 are to be informed, curiosity, cleanliness of body and surroundings, efficiency, convenience, dependability or quality, expression of beauty and style, economy or profit, and bargains. So if you ask me, these 8 and 9 round out a better understanding of human desires. And for just about any marketing message, you can use any one of these, either the Life Force 8 or the secondary 9, to craft your message and appeal to your customers' interests. Now understand that the 8, as Whitman points out, are stronger than the 9 secondary ones because they are biologically programmed ones. We are not biologically driven to satisfy the secondary 9 like we are the Life Force 8. So I highly recommend you go pick up this book and read it. It's a great read, and you'll come away with some really good insights about human behavior. So, your customer. Even though we as humans have progressed quite a ways from how our primitive caveman ancestors lived, we are still ruled by that part of our brain. Now, every single response to any stimulus that we encounter checks in with that primitive part of our brain when it makes a decision. For example, we still have a fight or flight response in situations where there is no immediate danger to us. Sort of like when your adrenaline gets pumping when you start watching an action scene in a movie. It's that powerful, even though it isn't real. Your brain thinks it is, and it takes appropriate measures and starts pumping that adrenaline. So that leads us to a modern problem. We as a society are overstimulated. Our brains cannot function properly with so much information. And not only has the rate of information increased exponentially in the past century, but the number of advertisements we see in a single day has increased. It is estimated that people in a large city 30 years ago would see about 2,000 ads per day. But today, people in large cities see over 10,000 advertisements and other messages, including social media messages. We are so bombarded with messages competing for our attention that we live in an overstimulated society. We live in an over-communicated society. We have way too many choices, and we are paralyzed with options to where it's become difficult to make decisions. So our brain has this concept called a heuristic. And heuristics help us make quick decisions without having to think too much. So you can think of heuristics as a rule of thumb. We make quick judgments based on any past experiences that we've had, whether they were good or bad. We look at the conditions of the current decision, cross-reference them to any experience that may have had the same or similar conditions, and then make the decisions based on those conditions. So what we're really looking for and what we really need is clarity. We need something to help us cut through the noise and allow us to focus. When you become exactly what your customer is looking for and exactly what your customer needs, once you speak to them in a language that they understand and that they speak, and when you do it with authenticity and authority, you bring that clarity to your customer. Even if it's only for what you specifically provide, it's still clarity. It's like a tiny moment of peace.